In 1919, the world watched Paris. The Great War, a conflict of unprecedented scale and brutality, had finally ended. Now, leaders from the victorious Allied nations gathered in the French capital, their mission to negotiate peace treaties and redraw the map of Europe. This gathering became known as the Paris Peace Conference. It was a momentous event, filled with hope for a lasting peace, but also fraught with tension and the weight of the war's devastation. The Paris Peace Conference aimed to create a new world order. The victorious Allies wanted to ensure that such a devastating war would never happen again. They sought to punish Germany for its role in the war and prevent future German aggression. However, the conference faced immense challenges. The war had left Europe in ruins, both physically and economically. Political and social upheaval swept across the continent, adding to the instability. The Allies themselves were not a united front. Each nation had its own priorities and goals. France, having suffered greatly during the war, demanded harsh punishments for Germany and strong security guarantees. Britain, while also seeking to limit Germany's power, was more concerned with maintaining its own imperial interests and the balance of power in Europe. The United States, under President Woodrow Wilson, advocated for a more idealistic approach, emphasizing international cooperation and the creation of a League of Nations to prevent future conflicts. The three major Allied powers, France, Britain and the United States, came to the conference with different perspectives, shaping the negotiations. France, led by Prime Minister Georges Clemenceau, demanded harsh reparations from Germany to compensate for the destruction it had suffered. Clemenceau, known as the Tiger, also sought to weaken Germany militarily and territorially to prevent future threats. Britain, represented by Prime Minister David Lloyd George, agreed on the need to limit Germany's power. However, Lloyd George was also wary of crippling Germany economically, fearing that it could destabilize Europe and benefit Britain's rivals. The United States, under President Woodrow Wilson, presented a more idealistic vision for the post-war world. Wilson's 14 points, outlined in a speech to Congress in 1918, called for open diplomacy, freedom of the seas, and the creation of a League of Nations to resolve international disputes peacefully. Wilson believed that a just and lasting peace required addressing the underlying causes of the war, not just punishing the defeated. The most significant outcome of the Paris Peace Conference was the Treaty of Versailles, signed with Germany on June 28, 1919. The treaty imposed harsh terms on Germany, including significant territorial losses, strict limitations on its military, and heavy reparations payments. Germany lost Alsace-Lorraine to France, territories to Belgium and Denmark, and colonies in Africa and the Pacific. The Rhineland, a strategically important area along the Rhine River, was demilitarized. The German army was limited to 100,000 men, and it was forbidden from having tanks, submarines, or an air force. The treaty also held Germany solely responsible for the war, a clause known as the War Guilt Clause. This clause deeply offended many Germans and fueled resentment towards the treaty. The reparations imposed on Germany were vast, totaling billions of gold marks. The intention was to cripple Germany's economy and prevent it from rebuilding its military. However, the reparations proved to be a source of great economic hardship for Germany in the years that followed. The treaty also established the League of Nations, Wilson's brainchild, intended to prevent future wars through collective security and diplomacy. However, the League was weakened from the outset by the United States' refusal to join, a consequence of isolationist sentiment in the US Senate. Section 5, a bitter pill, Germany's reaction to the treaty. The Treaty of Versailles was met with outrage and anger in Germany. Many Germans viewed the treaty as a dictated peace, a humiliation imposed on them by the victors. The War Guilt Clause in particular was deeply resented. The loss of territory, the limitations on the military, and the crushing reparations were seen as unjust punishments. The German delegation at Versailles had protested the treaty's terms, but ultimately had little choice but to sign. The alternative was a resumption of hostilities, which Germany was in no position to win. The treaty's harshness had a profound impact on German society and politics. It contributed to economic instability and social unrest. The treaty became a rallying cry for right-wing nationalist groups who exploited the widespread resentment to gain support. The seeds of future conflict were sown in the bitter soil of Versailles. Section 6. The treaty's immediate aftermath, a world on edge. The signing of the Treaty of Versailles did not bring an end to the turmoil that had gripped Europe. The war's aftermath left a continent grappling with political instability, economic hardship, and social upheaval. Revolutions and civil wars erupted in several countries, fueled by the war's dislocations and the rise of radical ideologies. The Bolshevik Revolution in Russia in 1917 had already sent shockwaves through Europe, and the fear of communist expansionism loomed large. The Treaty of Versailles, while intended to create a lasting peace, contributed to the instability. The new map of Europe, drawn with little regard for ethnic or historical boundaries, created new tensions and conflicts. The harsh treatment of Germany, while understandable given the desire for revenge and security, sowed the seeds of resentment that would have lasting consequences. Section 7. Seeds of Discord. The treaty's long-term legacy. The Treaty of Versailles has been the subject of intense historical debate. Some historians argue that the treaty was too harsh on Germany and that its punitive measures contributed to the rise of Nazism and the outbreak of World War II. They point to the economic hardship caused by reparations, the political instability fueled by resentment over the treaty, and the opportunity it provided for demagogues like Adolf Hitler to exploit German grievances. Others argue that the treaty, while flawed, was not the primary cause of World War II. They emphasized the role of other factors, such as the global economic depression, the failure of appeasement, and the aggressive expansionism of Nazi Germany. The debate over the treaty's legacy is complex, and there is no easy answer. 2. Section 8. Debating the treaty. Was it a just peace? The question of whether the Treaty of Versailles was a just peace is a complex one. The treaty's supporters argue that it was necessary to punish Germany for its role in the war and to prevent future German aggression. They point to the horrors of the war, the millions of lives lost, and the devastation caused by German actions. They argue that Germany's leaders bear responsibility for the war and that the treaty was a necessary measure to ensure peace and security. Critics of the treaty argue that it was too punitive and that it created more problems than it solved. They point to the economic hardship caused by reparations, the political instability fueled by resentment over the treaty, and the opportunity it provided for demagogues to exploit German grievances. They argue that a more lenient peace based on Wilson's 14 points would have been more likely to achieve a lasting peace. Section 9. The treaty's enduring significance, lessons for today. The Treaty of Versailles, despite its flaws and controversies, remains a pivotal event in world history. It marked the end of one era and the beginning of another. It reflected the complexities of international relations, the challenges of peacemaking, and the enduring consequences of war. The treaty's legacy continues to shape our understanding of the 20th century and the forces that led to World War II. The treaty also offers important lessons for today. It reminds us of the importance of diplomacy, the dangers of nationalism, and the need for international cooperation to address global challenges. The treaty's failures, as well as its successes, provide valuable insights into the complexities of peacemaking and the importance of creating a just and sustainable peace. Section 10. Conclusion. The Treaty of Versailles and the shaping of the modern world. The Treaty of Versailles was a product of its time, shaped by the horrors of World War I and the desire to prevent another such conflict. It was a flawed peace, one that failed to achieve its ultimate goal of lasting stability. However, it was also a significant moment in world history, marking the end of one era and the beginning of another. The treaty's legacy continues to be debated and dissected by historians, but its impact on the 20th century is undeniable. The Treaty of Versailles stands as a reminder of the challenges of peacemaking, the complexities of international relations, and the enduring consequences of war. It serves as a cautionary tale, urging us to learn from the mistakes of the past and to strive for a more just and peaceful world.